All right. The previous lesson showed you how to make a patient data table, so let's just review that real quickly. You'll notice at this point my patient IDs run from 1 to 10, and I have 10. Had I deleted any of these patients, the numbers might be out of sequence, so you might see like 1, 2, 5, 4, 5, but whatever, but they'd never use the numbers for that. Some of these I just made up. Some of these I actually got from a notebook. The important thing down here is where it says 1 to 10. That tells me there's 10 records in this data table. Remember, you have to have 30 patients. The other thing I did while I was away, so to speak, was I created a doctor table. I'm not showing you this on the video because, quite frankly, it's exactly the same skills as you would use for a patient. Only instead of saying, PT ID, you would say doc ID or whatever version you want to use. So just to show you the structure, there's the ID, there's the salutation field, exactly the same setup, except the only thing I did was I made the default value doctor because they're all physicians in here. First name, middle initial, last name, address, same deal, memo field, physician date of birth. I did add a couple of things that you would track on a physician, like, for instance, their license number, the date it was first issued here in the state of Kentucky. They'll need that for when they renew their licenses. What date does the current license expire? What university did they graduate from, and what date did they graduate? And there's a couple other things that would also be reported, but I stuck those in there. Again, as before, I want you to add a few more fields here that you'd want to track for physicians. Again, the example database has a couple of those in there. Feel free to look at that and get some ideas. I have got 4 physicians now, and I have enough patients that I could actually make this work. So what we're going to create now actually is the visits table. And this is where the magic happens. I mean, if you get this and the visits table built, you've got 70 points right there, as long as you create it and all the links work. So I've clicked on the Create tab here, and I'm going to create a table, which you notice takes us right into this particular view. I don't want to create a table in the visits field, or in the spreadsheet view. I want to create it in the design view. And as soon as I click on design, that thing right there, it's going to ask me for name. And I'm going to call it visits. That's just convenient. Again, as before, instead of just ID, I'm going to make it either visit ID, APP. I'll tell you what, let's just use APP for appointment. So appointment ID, that'll work nice. I kind of like that idea. And this is the first time that we're going to use a lookup in another table. So the important thing about these lookup fields that come from another table is you want to start them in the table you're going to be pulling information into. So you have to have the data table that you're pulling information from has to already defined, and it works a lot easier if the data table you're pulling from has some data in it, which is why I was suggesting that you do patient and physician first, because we're going to be pulling from those into this field, or into this data table. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go look up the patient data. So we're going to pick the patient. So right here, I'm going to look up in a table of query. I'm going to hit next, and then you'll notice down here we can do tables, queries, or both, and we're just going to be working with tables here, and I'm pulling in patients. Now, if you want to, you could grab everything. That's what this will do. It'll take every field over there and move it into the selected fields, and all that really does is it shows you all the fields in the data set that you could look at, but I don't really want that. Now, you always want the patient ID. I don't necessarily need the salutation. I am going to get the first name, and definitely going to get the last name. I'm going to go ahead and get the middle initial. Most places you also get the patient date of birth because you want to confirm that's who you're really talking to. After all, if the patient's name is John Smith and you've got 10,000 patient records, there will be another John Smith in there. All right, now the next, I clicked on next, and so let me go back and explain this. So what I'm doing is these are the fields that are going to display when I do my lookup. It's confusing now. Stay with me. Then I want to sort them. Now, you don't sort by ID, because that's pretty meaningless, but it might make sense to sort by last name, first name, and middle initial, and then if all of those match, you need one more, date of birth. And since I don't have date of birth on all of mine, it would make it a little harder, but you get the idea. So now it's listing it by Fleener, Now, you notice Fleener is listed after first name. So let me go back, and I can alter this a little bit. So I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to put it back in. So and now I'm going to go back into it. Okay, so I'm going to sort by last name. And you notice I'm not sorting by ID at all. ID is relatively meaningless. The human mind doesn't really pick it up. And then date of birth. And now I'll do next. And now you notice it's last name, first name, middle initial. So the order you select the fields determines how they're going to be displayed inside when we're doing our patient lookup. And then what field would I like? Well, remember, all of this stuff is based, actually, the only thing that's in there, the only thing that's actually physically stored is the ID from the patient table. So I'm going to do that. I do not want to allow multiple values. Okay, go ahead and save it. So that's good. You notice it set it to number. And we didn't do that. We did that with a lookup. So what happens in the lookup is it goes to the patient table, looks to see what's the thing that I'm going to use here, in which case the primary key of that table was an ID, which was a number. And so now it's matching the data type. So the data type here has to match the data type there. I know it says auto number, but remember, the root of that is a number. That's what the primary keys are. They're basically their numbers. All right, so when I do my lookup, it's going to pull in the patient ID information. Now I've got to match that to a physician. So every patient for an appointment has to have a physician that they're going to be seeing when they come in. So now I'm going to get my doctors. I want to do the exact same thing. I always get ID. I'm going to get last name. Then I'm going to get the first name. Then I'm going to get the middle initial. Now, with physicians, we really don't need all this because basically, you'll know who they are probably. And I don't need the date of birth, so I'm just going to stop there. I'm going to sort by last name, and then first name, and then middle initial. I should actually probably put a couple of physicians in there that have the same name so you can see what that sort does. And again, as before, instead it's not doc L name, it's actually doc ID is what I want to put in there. And click finish. Okay, notice it changes the number. Now these are foreign keys. This is a primary key. It's the unique identifier for every record in what's going to be our visits data table. And then these are foreign keys. They're called foreign keys because they are the keys to another different or foreign data table. Okay, now every patient that comes in is also going to need a appointment date, right? Or you could do that if you want. And that's going to be a date time field. And then down here, I'm going to want to put in an input mask. There's nothing that prevents us, by the way, from having the date and time all in one long format, but I'm not going to fool with that. So finish, and then we're going to have appointment time. So that's going to be a date time field. And then down here we're going to do our input mask, which we already know how to do. You could use this as military time, so you don't need the AM or PM stuff. Or you could use medium time or even long time, which gets you out of the second. I'm going to use medium time, which means we'll have to remember to put in AMs and PMs. So I now have an appointment date and an appointment time, so that'll make that unique. And then later we can earn some points by adding in another data table here doing a lookup. We can actually schedule a room. But for the 70 points, this is all you need. So you get this and you are good. You're golden. So let's see how it works. And what I did was I switched from the design view back to this. Now, here's the magic, and this is the beauty of a relational database and why Access is such a good instructional tool, if not necessarily a production tool. Now, the difference is, in production, this is something they might be using actually in the physician office, and again, there's some limitations to this. For one thing, two people can't be using the database at the same time. You get things like collision between data analysis. So if I was editing the patient data, another person could open up that same patient, be editing data, and we could both be trying to change the same value. It could collide. There's some other things, some bad things that could really happen. You notice this is when I clicked in here I can click in here. I got this little down arrow thing now. So I click on that, and you'll notice these are sorted alphabetical order. Again, I don't have anybody with the same last name, so you can't see how it's also sorting by first name. And then if it's somebody with the same last name, same first name, but different middle initials, they would then be sorted by that. And then I had somebody that had, for instance, my father and I have the same name. We're both John B. White. But we have very different date of birth, so his date of birth would come first than mine. And then you could also match people by date of birth if you wanted to in terms of that lookup. So let's say Alvin Wheeler is going to come in and he's going to see Dr. Wells. And we have to give him an appointment date. So let's say he wants to see him in May, and on May 10th, 2010, and we need to give him an appointment time. Let's say he wants to be seen at 8:30 a.m. And we're done. We just made an appointment with Dr. Wheeler. I'm sorry, for Mr. Wheeler here. Notice he's highlighted. So Alvin Wheeler with Dr. Wells on the 10th at da-da-da. And that's it. We're done. We just made the appointment. Now, the beauty of this is that you can make a lot of appointments very quickly. And remember, you have to have 30 patient records, you have to have 15 appointments, and you've got to have 4 physicians. So we'll just make some other appointments here real quick. And you'll notice we can schedule multiple physicians. Oops. On the same date at the same time. Now, obviously, if I had rooms, I could actually fix it. In fact, when I add department, I'll change the structure of this. That's another lesson. But when I add, when I add a room to it, I'll fix it so that you can't schedule the same physician on the same date at the same time in different rooms. So I'll use a trick of the primary keys where I can make everything unique and force it so that you can't have any of these fields duplicated. But we're done at this point. Now, how do I know that this is working? Well, if you go to Database Tools, or actually you can go to Distribute as well, because it has this thing right here, Relationships, but I always find it under Database Tools. If I click on Relationships, what it shows me here right now is the relationship between physician and visits and patient and visits. So here we go. I notice it's showing me the names of the fields. And like I said, this is one of the first places I'm going to go. To take a look. But it doesn't have any defined relationships. What do I mean by that? Well, if you remember the video on the introduction to Access, one of the things I was showing you was that we had a one too many, where a patient can have one patient could have many visits. And let me show you what I mean by that. So let's do one patient. So Wheeler is coming in to see Wells, and let's say he wants to see Dr. Gray on a different date. So he's got in the 6th of June. That's a special date for anybody who's a history buff. He's going to come see Dr. Wheeler, and he's going to see Dr. Wheeler, let's say, is more of an afternoon kind of physician, and that would be AM, that would be a PM. So now we have, Mr. Wheeler now has 2 appointments in our visits, and so he can have one patient record could have multiple visits. All right, so let's ensure that. Let's show that graphically. Now, what I'm going to try to do here is double-click on this line. And for some reason, I always have a lot more luck double-clicking on the bend than I do trying to double-click out here. But if you miss, here, let me show you. I'm going to double-click over here. If you miss, it'll come up looking like this. It won't be able to show you what's happening there. But you can create patient visits here. And you can select the stuff, and it'll pick it for you. I think it's a lot easier to try and just click. I try to target the bend. And what we want to do is enforce referential integrity. What that does is it enforces the one-to-many relationship. You can also have it cascade, and then if I delete it, you can have it delete records in other tables. So if I were to delete Mr. Wheeler out of the visits table, it would also delete him everywhere else. Mostly all I'm interested in is this referential integrity, because that shows... Oh, okay, cancel. Can't modify a relationship to a table that's open, so let me do that real quickly. Close these tables. All right, now it'll work. So I can do that, and say OK, and do the same over here, and enforce referential integrity, and there we go. Now, what I have now is a graphical representation of the relationship between the visits, which here's the relationship here. So I have a one-to-many of the docs. Remember, this is a foreign key here. It's called a primary key here because here it's the unique record inside docs. Over here it's a foreign key because if I know this ID, I can look up all the information for the physicians. Now, why is that important? Okay, well, let me show you something cool. Now that I've defined those relationships, in fact, you should be able to do this as well, is click on that plus. And you notice here it says this is appointments. Okay, well, I can now begin adding, and I didn't have anything in here for her. But remember, I made some for Dr. Allen here, and see, it's showing his appointments. So as I add more appointments for Dr. Allen, they'll start showing up in here. In fact, I can even add the appointments from inside here. I don't have to go anywhere else. So if I'm working with the actual data, I can give Felicia, Miss Mueller here, an appointment, also on the 5th. And let's say my physician is interested in efficiency. He'll probably overschedule. He'll assume one of these patients will be a little late on that date. Now, this is another thing I just did. Let's hear that Will has an appointment here. Now, I can, in fact, let's delete this for right now. And I will fix it so I won't be able to do that here in a bit. So let's give Audrey here an appointment. Okay. And let's see, Lori England right here needs somebody. I don't think Miss Jackson has one yet. And we'll let her be in here at 5:10, and we'll make her be here at 8:30 a.m. as well. But I could, whoops, forgot AM bit. All right, and I could start, scheduling patients this way. You'll also notice that it's not bringing up everything on the patient that's inside here. Right now, close my doctor table, go back to my patient table, and I can open this up. And there's the physicians. Again, they're linking to the appointments. The system knows that the only link, this is not linked directly to physician, the only link is to here. Now, I can also, once I've created a data table, I can also do this. This is really cool. As structure changes in my database, not just my data tables, but as I add more tables and things, I can always go back and do lookups to add more information. So I'm going to put a physician with every patient, because I'm going to assume that my physicians are, oops, that should have been F name. There we go. And so now I can assign a physician to a patient, so that way I can make sure that they always know what's going on. Switch, yep, save the table, and I can go over here and I can now add physicians to my patients, and I can make that one Dr. Blewett, Dr. Wright, Dr. Gray, and this is one of those things you want to do in order to earn some extra credit on this particular. I miss Blewett, Gray, Wells, Blewett, Gray, Wells. Oh, Lori. Mr. Lori wants. Okay, we'll just give Lori some extra credit there. All right, so now all of my physicians, they now have this, and you'll notice I have over here, my relations table's been updated. And which way does this one go? Well, notice doc to patient, enforce referential ID. Now, think about it for a moment. Can a patient have more than one primary care physician? Or can a doctor have more than one patient? Okay, well, if you said the physician, oh wait, patient is in use, okay, sorry, let me go cancel that. Go close that, because remember we can't change relationships in data tables that are open. So if you said that a physician, well, see, I missed. There we go. So if you said it could be one physician can have many patients, you would be correct. So let me open up physician again, and we've already made this connection, but you'll notice now it says, well, which one do you want to see listed? Since I already have a visits table that I can kind of pull up by physician, I'm going to say I want it to look at patients. And so now you'll notice that instead of being what it was before, I can now pull up the patients that I just assigned to these physicians. And so I can get very quickly a listing of every patient for every physician for which they are the primary care physician. And that's pretty freaking cool. All right, so again, getting to this point, worth 70 points. Remember, at least as far as the physician data table goes, I believe you need at least 4, or is it 5, whatever the contract says. For the patients, you got to have 30 of these bad boys listed. And for visits, I can look down here, I should see 1 of 15, all the way down through there. Also, remember, if you're going to save things, you need to make sure you close the entire data set, close it down, so that locked right there disappears, and then you can upload your database to My Files. That concludes our lesson.